The main protagonist of the story is Yi Sang, a former Korean arm wrestler. He is currently employed as a bouncer in an American bar. One night at work, he is approached by his former colleague John, who invites him to participate in an arm wrestling contest. Yi Sang is strongly opposed, but John persists and ultimately convinces him. They proceed to the club's opposite side, where gamblers are having fun betting on games. Yi Sang is the underdog since the person he is fighting against has won the entire night. It turns out that John has an opportunity because no one wants to bet on someone like him. As the match begins, Yi Sang shows why he used to be the best arm wrestler. Despite working up a sweat, Yi Sang's opponent is unable to move his hand even an inch. Yi Sang wins the game effortlessly, giving John a large sum of money. When the loser refuses to accept loss, a conflict occurs. He punches John, and as a result, Yi Sang and many customers get into a fight. He loses his job as a result of the conflict. Damn, Yi Sang got fired for literally doing what a bouncer is supposed to do. A week later, he finds a job as a security guard in a supermarket. Despite frequently missing home, he has a good and happy life. Then one day, he receives a phone call from John, inviting him to visit Korea. In Seoul, an arm wrestling competition is beginning, and the winner will be eligible to compete internationally. Before choosing to take the biggest risk of his life, Yi Sang spends a long time looking at his previous medals. When he lands in Seoul, John approaches to pick him up. They go to a hotel where they have dinner and discuss business. John wants to manage Yi Sang and handle the commercial parts of his line of work. Though he wishes Yi Sang well, he has plans to enter the betting industry in order to increase his income. He will need to take use of Yi Sang's talent for this. The two go on a tour of Seoul for the rest of the day. At one of the locations, some girls snap photographs with Yi Sang thinking he is a tourist attraction. Yi Sang's Korean is poor since he has spent a lot of time in America, which causes him to have many awkward interactions. They visit a club at night, but Yi Sang remains in the corner the entire time, unconsciously posing as a bouncer once more. As they make their way to the hotel, John asks him whether he's ever wished to know who his biological mother is. It comes out that Yi Sang was abandoned as a child and placed for adoption. Since everything is in the past, he says he has no interest in meeting anyone. John drops him off at a love motel where he will spend the night. For the first time, Yi Sang lies in a vibrating waterbed, but a gift package grabs his attention. There is a phone inside, and it is from John. Upon checking, he discovers his biological mother's address there. In another location, John visits Rocky, a rich loan shark, and begs him to sponsor Yi Sang. Because he spoke to Rocky without permission, he is initially hanging upside down. However, after watching a video of Yi Sang, the gangster decides to fund him. Yi Sang will have to win and lose according to his orders, and that is all he asks. The following day, Yi Sang navigates to an address using the phone's map. Before knocking on the door, two kids approach him. They think he is a beast because of his physique, so he walks away to calm them down. The kids inform their mother Sophia about the weird man who has been loitering in front of their home. Through the window, the family observes Yi Sang leaving. Sophia is the owner of a struggling second-hand shop. She owes the gangster Rocky a sizable sum of money, who bothers her whenever he gets the chance. At work that day, she sees Yi Sang and Rocky entering a club at a shopping complex. Yi Sang has been brought by John to meet the sponsors and demonstrate his abilities. There, James, a rich and arrogant youngster, is also presented to us. He is Rocky's buddy, and the one who places the most bets, spending the most money. Yi Sang defeats a strong Navy guy to demonstrate his strength. As a result of their victory, he and John are offered a luxurious room in a 5-star hotel. Rocky texts John that Yi Sang should win the first match tomorrow but lose the second one. He worries that Yi Sang won't accept the terms. When they go out to dinner, John brings up the subject of the second match's loss. To his astonishment, Yi Sang immediately consents to do it. The next morning, we see Sophia preparing her children for school. Lucas, the oldest, is concerned that the huge guy would come to the house once more. Sophia thinks Yi Sang to be a familiar face. When the kids are off to school, she pulls out some old photos and discovers one with little Yi Sang and his mother. The youngsters bump into him once again outside. Despite the excitement of the youngest, Amelia, Lucas threatens to call the police if he sees Yi Sang once again. In the following scene, we are introduced to Korea's #1 arm wrestling champion, Lee. That night, Rocky invites him to the bar to assess Yi Sang's abilities. Until a professional gives him the go-ahead that Yi Sang is trustworthy, he doesn't want to make reckless money bets. Everyone arrives at the club in the evening. The first match puts Yi Sang against a 7-foot-tall giant. He wins with amazing effort, impressing even Korea's champion. So, that's why he easily beat the zombies with punches and trained to Busan movie. Sophia is also present and is observing Yi Sang. Rocky attempts to touch her sexually during the break and claims that he owns her as a result of the money she owes him. When Yi Sang witnesses this, he is not happy. He wins on purpose in the second match to get even with Rocky. When Rocky tries to assert his ownership, he is pushed aside. John goes insane while attempting to please both the boss and Yi Sang. He understands that Yi Sang betrayed him because of Sophia. He approaches her to ask about her relationship with Yi Sang in a fit of wrath. Rocky shows up at the same moment and begins hitting John. When Yi Sang steps in, a fight breaks out between him and Rocky's entire gang. Sophia urges Rocky to tell his troops to stop fighting, only to be pushed to the ground. When the cops detain Yi Sang and John, the fight ends. In order to release Yi Sang, they require his identity, but he lost his luggage and passport during the previous fight. Yi Sang competes in a match with the policeman, in which he shows that he is really an arm wrestler. Despite this, the guy won't let him go without identification. Sophia then brings her children to the police station. She has his passport, which works as identification, and a photo of him with his mother. The following disclosure reveals that Sophia is Yi Sang's stepsister and that their mother passed away a year ago. Yi Sang is devastated to get the news and is confused of how to react. The family gives an invitation to Yi Sang and John to stay with them for a few days. The youngsters adore him for his distinct personality. Yi Sang enjoys snuggling with little Amelia, and Lucas has started chatting to him more frequently. A group of teenagers are smoking outside the home, refusing to leave even when Sophia urges them to. However, as Yi Sang enters their line of sight, they quickly apologize and flee. The following day, Rocky's men arrive to demand money from Sophia and threaten her. Yi Sang is also getting ready to go with his stuff since he doesn't want to burden the family. Although he drives the loan sharks away, the thugs realize him that he should stay with his family to keep them safe. They had a ton of fun with one another during the following several days. They like living as a happy family, going to buffets, eating meals together, and playing together. Sophia had struggled to manage a business and 2 children on her own until now. She has a lot of unorganized business clothing throughout her home. When she gets home one day, everything has been cleaned. She can concentrate on her career because Yi Sang also looks after the kids. John, meantime, is experiencing financial difficulties. After watching Yi Sang with the kids, he has an idea and calls a buddy who works for a television business. He hopes to raise money and win people's sympathy by documenting Yi Sang's life. Despite his doubts, Yi Sang decides to go forward with it. In the following scenario, Yi Sang and his family are seen heading on a trip. They see Lee, the reigning champion of Korean wrestling, compete against opponents in a charity match. Yi Sang challenges him and shocks everyone by winning the game. A few weeks later, a television documentary about his difficult upbringing, adoption, and professional wrestling problems is produced. They make a good amount of money off the program, which becomes an instant hit. The kids start admiring their uncle more and more. On their way to school one day, they overhear a woman insulting Yi Sang. In retaliation, Amelia declares that her uncle is a champion and makes him promise that he will win the national championship for her. In the next scene, we meet John's father, who is elderly yet works extremely hard for a living. John is solely enthusiastic about earning more money because he wants to provide his father the finest life possible, one in which he is no longer need to work. When Jun Hyung gets home that day, he phones Yi Sang and shows him the emails his mother used to send every day. Yi Sang learns that his mother's greatest life regret was placing him for adoption. Throughout her life, she sent multiple emails to an address that was not his. She had expressed how difficult life was when he was with her in the emails. She wanted to give him a better life, but she couldn't afford to feed him. All she wanted was to meet him and apologize, even as she lay dying. Additionally, Yi Sang learns that Sophia is not his stepsister. When she was a little child, his mother took her in when her parents went away. Yi Sang is shocked by the revelation and becomes enraged with Sophia for never being honest with him. In the next scene, the family travels to Yi Sang's mother's grave. He confronts Sophia about her lies when they are traveling. Yi Sang had made the decision to leave them behind and travel back to America. Since he hasn't participated in the competition yet, which is in a week, John attempts to stop him. But an angry Yi Sang claims that he is exploiting his friend for money and walks away. The next scene shows Korea's champion, Lee, preparing for the competition. A beast named Peter has also been hired by the gangster Rocky. He used to be a brutal arm wrestler who was known for snapping every opponent's arm. He was detained a few years ago for utilizing drugs to enhance his performance in games. In preparation for returning to the game, he also practices hard. Then the big day for the competition finally comes. The youngsters are alone at home when they realize they haven't returned the medal to Yi Sang. They use this as an excuse to get on a bus and travel to the wrestling venue to see him compete. Later, Sophia receives a call from a friend at the arena, causing her to rush to get her kids. When the tournament begins, Peter, Yi-sang, and Lee are divided into 3 groups. They win all of the games in their groups and go to the semifinals. Peter, who is cruel, injures many of his opponents and goes to the final. The millionaire investor Logan and his people have bet all their money on Peter. They fear losing all the money after realizing how well Yi-sang is doing. In order to ensure their player wins, Logan tells Rocky to do all in his power. Rocky offers John $200,000 in exchange for persuading Yi-sang to lose the match against Lee in the semifinals. John agrees to the amount and goes to inform his friend, but Yi-sang refuses to make the deal. The money will allow them to fulfill their life goals and pay off all of their obligations, but that doesn't make up for the promise Yi-sang made to Amelia. As a result, he wrestles Lee in a thrilling match and ultimately wins. During the interval between matches, Rocky finds John and beats him. Yi-sang, though, manages to stop the goons. In order to save his buddy, he knocks the gangster to the ground. John disregards the money and tells him to win at whatever cost. Everyone clutches their breath as they watch the last match begin. Peter intentionally causes their hands to slide while playing dirty. Additionally, he pulls Yi-sang's thumb tightly, slowing him down with each stop. The initiative appears to shift to Peter, but suddenly, from the corner of his eye, Yi-sang sees the kids cheering for him. With a renewed desire to show his worth to them, Yi-sang immediately pulls Peter's hand away and beats him. In the last scene, Yi-sang loudly declares his love for his mother. He can't help but cry when he thinks about how much she's been through. I feel so bad for the mother. True parents would do anything for their child's future. Everyone is celebrating the victory as the film comes to a close.